Athlete Builder back at it. I was just telling Lucas this is going to be one of those fun ones with the guy that I've known off and on for years. And it's just like sitting back and drinking a beer, just shooting the shit about strength and conditioning and people. But we got Mark Valenti on. Cool dude. If you see him right there, we were just talking about him being in Ten Commandments back in the day, leading them all out by the beard and the robe. But I just missing the staff. But legit dude, nerd, big reader. I love that. Used to run the Refined Savage podcast. Runs his own gym called Blind Dog. It's in Vermilion, Ohio. So right in the middle of the state and straight up until you hit the water, essentially. Former pro thrower. Now he's just making people better. So if similar to me, he's that get off my lawn motherfucker. At the same time with a huge heart. So how do we get in touch with Mark? Good old Mimi Mahan. Back in the day, she's at my gym. She's training. We're talking about strongman and throwing. She's, well, Mark has he has his own competitions and stuff. You should just go over to Ohio and do that. I'm like, cool, let's do it. So I dragged my wife there a couple of times. I've been there for a few of the events, and that's how we met. And just been kind of following Mark from afar. Strength athlete, but also was into CrossFit. His wife was into CrossFit as well. Qualified for regionals back in the day when it was early infancy. And keeps evolving his gym now, evolving his training methods. Strong first coach, also with the NSCA. He's a tactical strength and conditioning coach. So well-rounded, gets people better, mostly works with adults, but some student athletes. His son's a thrower in college as well. So Mark, been looking forward to this. It's been way too long and overdue, but glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Always a pleasure to see you guys.
How are things going? Tell us catch us up with you, your wife, and your kid, and everything in the gym.
Great. We're living out here in Vermilion. We moved out, got some property out here, so we've got a few acres, and I work at the gym and have my little home gym here at the house, where nobody bugs me when I train. I do that and sit in my sauna and feed the deer and chase my wife around the house, and we go watch track meets on the weekends. So it's a simple life. I'm digging it.
It's a good time, less extra stuff.
Yes.
It's a lot. So still drinking coffee and reading all the time?
Yeah, daily. If people, I don't know why people follow me on Instagram, but if you do, there's, like once a week I'll post a video of me doing some kind of training, but mostly it's what book I'm reading at that moment, and usually next to that book is a cup of Viking coffee, which is they're not my brand of coffee, but they have a brand named after me. So
no kidding.
Like supporting those guys. Yeah.
No shit. That's awesome. So Mimi was telling me you started your gym in your own garage, which is similar to exactly what I did. So is that right?
Yeah. So I was bouncing around from gym to gym since '96, training young athletes, and after about the fourth gym where the owner just kind of irritated the crap out of me, I went home and cleaned out my 2-car garage with the leaky roof and just put a bunch of equipment in there. And all the kids that were training with me at that gym came over to the garage, and it was brutally cold in the winter and incredibly hot in the summer. And we just pumped out athletes like crazy. The last full year we were in that place, we had 7 kids going to college athletics out of this 20 by garage. So it was just a great start it. Then after that, my wife just said, "Why don't we get like a real gym and get it going?" And sometimes you just need someone to say that to make it happen. So.
What were you doing at the time? That was in your main line of work.
Yeah. So I was a corrections officer, working mostly intake at that point. So like I wasn't having to put hands on people, but I ended up doing a 19-year career as a corrections officer. And then I was competing professionally in the Highland Games for 17 years, which was the best summer job I ever had, and paid a lot of bills with that. And it was a good way to make a living.
Tell us what that's like. There's different kinds of pro athletes, and people say you can be a pro strongman, but there's not really, depending on how you're doing it, there is or is not money. But even back then, people were making money on the weekends throwing. So what's that career? What's that lifestyle? What's that um, sport like at the pro level with Highland Games on the weekends around
Yeah,
the country and around the world?
back in the day, I tell people I competed in the golden age of Highland Games where you had to be. I mean, it was just every competition you went to, there was a group of stud throwers there. Um, and amazingly enough, the competitions were very well funded because people came out and saw us throw. And I certainly was not in that stud category. I was always, top 10 in the U.S., but, I wasn't in that top 4 or 5. But um, it was great because you were on the road every weekend or every other weekend from mid-April to Halloween. So you were just you get on the road Friday morning or maybe Thursday, depending on what competition it was, and you would either compete on Saturday or Saturday and Sunday. Um, and yeah, man, you came into town. Everybody remembered you from the year before, so all these little cities were so into the games and it was such a big deal for them every year. For us, it was every weekend or every other weekend, but every weekend it was like a huge party. And you'd come to town and you get treated like a king and you get to go on a road trip with your buddies every weekend and you threw in front of big crowds and they paid you at the end of it. It wasn't, LeBron money, but it was enough to pay my mortgage or pay my car payment that month. And so it ended up being a decent salary. And I mean, it was so stupid. Like Ed Cohen isn't making money to be the king of powerlifting, but I'm making money to throw a stick or a stone in a field in a dress. It was they paid us for it, but they paid us well. And these like St. Andrew societies that ran these games had a lot of money and were willing to dish it out to the athletes. So we took it and spent it foolishly. It was great.
We've hosted a few at our place, and I always like the Masters athletes because they don't really, well, there's no real money in it for them, but the pros there is. And the Masters guys, they just show up and they're all like, one, they're always fucking with each other, which is great. The other guys are too. But in between some throws, they'll go over there and have a shot of whiskey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure the pros aren't doing that because they're actually trying to win, right?
Yeah. But the
Yeah,
money. I could never get into Masters Highland Games. I did a few of them. I did Masters World Championship games, but I couldn't get into it because it wasn't the same vibe. We fucked with each other and
right,
but it was you wanted to win. You
right,
wanted that cash, and it was a badge of honor that I made more money than you this weekend. So,
right.
it was, and we were all like that, so it was great.
It's like you're in the fraternity, but you're not an animal house.
Yeah,
You're with a bunch of big dudes throwing stuff, and the toys aren't kegs. There are other things to throw,
yeah,
but people probably threw the kegs too.
yeah.
So, what year did you transition into starting the gym outside of your garage? The next evolution.
We opened Blind Dog in Amherst, Ohio. That was in 2012, December of 2012.
Gotcha. So right before I opened mine in March of 13. And truth be told, there wasn't really a blind dog walking around the gym, right?
For sure, it was. Yeah,
Okay.
I've always had, ever since I saw the movie The Road Warrior with Mel Gibson, he had that little Australian cattle dog in there, and fell in love with that dog when I was a kid. So I've always had Australian cattle dogs. And Cordelia was my first one, and she was blind as a bat, and she used to come out and sit in our garage gym and just kind of hang out for the workouts. And so when we opened the new gym, I just kind of made the joke. We were trying to come up with a name, and I said we just call it Blind Dog for Cordy. And Aaron loved that name, so it stuck. And I've thought of changing it over the years, and I was like, shit, it's Blind Dog now. It's been over a decade, so.
Right.
But yeah, we opened the gym. She would come and just hang out in the gym, and that dog would still be living today if we would have let her. She was, an absolute mess when we had to put her down, but she was a tough dog and lasted 17 plus years. And
Dang.
yeah, she just was just a mean old lady who refused to die is what she was.
So the next question is, the answer could last a half hour, so we'll see. But you started off, power, strength. You played football, um, wrestling, track and field. It's all strength and it's all games of force, right?
Yeah.
And then you evolve with the gym, and you're doing the same deal with the student athletes. But then as you open a larger gym, you got more into CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
Following other CrossFit gyms, your wife competing very well at CrossFit. So from there, you still had the strength component. Strongman was still in your gym. Remember Mimi's name still on the board for pulling 400 off the ground.
Yep.
And then the more into kettlebells now and different philosophies. So different seasons of your life, but also different increased knowledge in different areas of strength training, endurance training, all that jazz. Just talk about how the philosophy has evolved, basically since you were competing to opening the big opening Blind Dog to now.
Yeah. So, if you follow the way I train people, and it's definitely morphed. And a lot of it has to do with what I see I'm able to do as an athlete. So, when I was an athlete and I was training young athletes, it was all pretty much the same. We were pulling heavy deadlifts. We were jumping. We were doing all this athletic stuff. But as I got older and started, I kind of gave that side of the business to my partner, Zach. He's not really my partner. He's another trainer at the gym, but we hang out. So I gave him that business and took over the adults. And, I kind of looked at the way I was currently training and said, we can take this and make it more palatable for people who are 40 and over. And um, it, it, it's just a more minimalist style of training. Lot of things good came out of COVID, and one of the good things that came out of COVID was I stopped getting clients who wanted to lose 12 pounds for a wedding, and started getting clients who wanted to get healthy and strong. And um, that really spoke to me, and it gave me. I used to not like personal training because of that. I had no interest in having people lose 12 pounds and then never seeing them again. Um, so um, I found Strong First, and that also helped because Strong First is uh, very good with the minimalist style approach to training. And um, so my gym now wouldn't look like the gym you saw when you came to visit. It's a rig down the middle, but we have very little equipment. We have bars and plates, we have kettlebells and some dumbbells, and that's about it. And it seems to work for the 35, 40 plus category that I work with. Very minimal style approach, 30 minutes in and out, very focused on strength, but not so much the heavy deadlifts and lifting Atlas stones as it is more, just strength and relative to what you're capable of.
Gotcha. So, what would let's see? I just turned 50. How old are you, Mark?
51.
51. What would 51-year-old Mark say to the 25-year-old Mark?
Oh, God damn.
And then what would 25-year-old Mark say to the 51-year-old Mark?
Yeah. It's funny because I talk about the guy who works with me who's 31 and working with the athletes. And he is very much like I was at that age. And, more is better. And you need to be doing the Olympic lifts, and you need to be jumping on these super high boxes, and you need to be, running and doing all and speed work. And where I look at the kids, and not that he's doing anything wrong. Those kids will get stronger, they will get faster, but I feel as though I could probably get the same results with some hard kettlebell swings and Turkish get-ups. They're going to get the core training stability. They're going to get the explosive power. It's just I would talk to myself and say, hey, slow your roll. do the least amount you need to do with them to get them strong and fast. And, you'll reap benefits for that. And then when they go away to college, let this, whatever strength coach they have, if they get to that level, let him experiment a little bit on them. They'll have an incredible base, and they'll be able to, walk into a college weight room and be set for life, and then if that guy wants to have them jumping on boxes and stuff, they'll be ready for that and they'll be set. I would spend a lot more time focusing on uh, proper breathing and bracing, and not so much the ab work that you see online, these Fight Club ab stuff or whatever. But I would teach them how to brace properly, and how to train their abs to make sure that they're durable. And I think that would be it, man. I would make it more minimal. I would tell my younger self to keep it minimal and make sure these kids are resilient and strong and stable. And you can do that with very minimal equipment and very minimal exercises.
I that makes me think of a coach I used to work for a while back. He said any kind of program that you make, usually you can take about 30-40% out of it and you'll be right. You can do well with the rest of what you got. And
Yeah.
when I'm making programs for high school kids now, I look at them like, what can I take out and still be, functional and have a good workflow. So
Yeah.
I like that.
You mentioned an important concept is the minimum dosage required.
Yes.
So if you have the minimum dosage and it's enough stimulus to cause adaptation, so you're growing, you're getting better, then you're good. And then you come back again with just how much more do I need just a little bit more? All right. You don't need tons and tons more typically. But what would the 25-year-old Mark, the one that takes a cigarette and just flings it at someone and, does a shot after he just, threw a heavy weight for distance, what would he say to older Mark?
Yeah, it would have been a rub of Copenhagen, but I think he would say the exact opposite, that you probably need more. I've had three people who I consider mentors in my life, and one of those was Louis Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
He and Kerry Overfelt spent a lot of time going down to West Side and hanging out, and Louis was big on everything. Just hundreds of exercises, to do, and bands and chains and setups, and that's the way I trained all through my Highland Games career. And God, what a pain in the ass! It worked great.
True. Yeah.
It worked great, but man, the setup time and the breakdown time and the thought you had to put into it. That I think that the 25-year-old Mark would say you need a whole hell of a lot more than swings and get-ups or snatches and bent presses, or just going in and deadlifting off the floor for an hour. I think he would say you need a lot more than that, but I'm not sure you do at any age.
Gotcha. I think a little more colorful language would have been thrown around there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Talk for those that don't know. Strong first. Lots of kettlebells. Minimalist. Pavel is the guy that championed that, but it's not like it's his idea. Russian's been using kettlebell swings, and others have as well for a long, long time. So it's not new. He just puts it all together in a manageable system. So just talk about what a strong first certification, that line of thinking, that line of training is, because it's different than, it's not as well known. It's still been around forever, but it's just not as well known or not as advertised or as sexy on Instagram as you might think, and which is probably a good thing. So just for those who don't know, give us an overview of what that is.
I'm a huge fan. I found Strong First. Strong First itself hasn't been around long. It used to be called Arcade Russian Kettlebell Club, and he broke away from them, started Strong First. Pavel Totsulin was a gentleman, and I got my integration into Strong First through a guy named Pavel Masek, who's from the Czech Republic, and we had talked, and he kind of suggested that I take my SFG, which is your basic kettlebell certification. And I didn't really know that much about it, but I was like bored and I didn't have anything else going on. And I was kind of looking for a new direction. So I took my SFG. It was super tough. It was a long weekend. You have to pass some physical standards in order to become a coach with them, which is one of the reasons I love Strong First so much. It's the only certification that I know where you actually have to be physically capable of doing everything at certain weights and in order to get your certification. So I took my SFG. It was a 3-day brutal meat grinder of a certification. And when I got done, I got in the car with my wife. We were in St. Pete, Florida for it. And she was driving me home. And I said, I'll never do another one of those again. And then I went home and signed up for the other 3 certifications here. And it's been the best thing for me since retiring from Highland Games. When I got out of Highland Games, I was kind of rudderless. I did strongman for a while. Wasn't really psyched on that. Like I said, I did Masters Highland Games. Wasn't really psyched on that. Got into jiu-jitsu because I'm a over 40 guy in the United States, and that's what you're supposed to do. Wasn't really digging that too much. Then found Strong First and have loved it. And the thing about it is it's not well known and it's not sexy. And the instructors are quiet professionals. They're all extremely knowledgeable. They're all. I have not met anyone, and Jim, I'm sure you'll agree with me that this is a tough statement to make for guys like us. I have not met anyone in the organization who I have not liked. Every single person has been just not only fantastic, but just impressive people, like heavy hitters. Like these people have done things in their career and they've worked hard for things. And you go to one of these seminars with them. I went to one last year in Phoenix, and everyone there was in really good shape, and everyone there had to go through the elite system, which is taking and passing all 4 certifications. And the women, the men, doesn't matter the age. We're all heavy hitters. And with Strong First, not only do you have to pass a physical test at every certification, but it doesn't matter. If you're 60, you're 70, you still have to keep recertifying every 3 years and passing those certifications. And if you don't, no hard feelings, but you don't get to call yourself a certified trainer anymore with them, which is, hey, it gives you a reason to keep training your butt off.
It's not, you don't see a lot of variability with kettlebell movements. You see the swings, snatch, goblet squat, maybe lunges with it, maybe some overhead press, but you don't see, that's just a small percentage. And it's usually just 1 or 2 different weights, 35, 44 pounds, for females, 53, maybe 62, 70 tops, for men. But some of those bells, it's in poods, so which is different, but well over 100 pounds, sometimes 200-pound bells.
Yeah, I've got 2 203-pound bells in my home gym. Just because I saw them on Facebook Market and I had to go adopt them. Someone was rid of them. I had to go get them. So. But I had to press one of the certifications, the SFG2, which is a 2nd level kettlebell. I had to press half my body weight overhead, strict press, clean kettlebell, and then press it overhead, strict. So, I mean, you have to be strong. I think the girls do. I don't remember what the girls have to do, but the guys have to do half their body weight. So I had to do a 106-pound kettlebell. Yeah, it's no joke. And what's crazy is you go to these certifications, and I bet you there's a 50% fail at the initial one at the SFG, and then the fail rate gets less and less as you go. But then you have like 6 months or 3 months, depending on the cert, to send in a video of you doing those tests, to standard. But you have to spend some time training. I spent a couple online sessions before every certification with Pavel Masic, and making sure my standards were what they were gonna, what we're gonna pass the certs. So was a little nerve wracking, but it's a little badge of honor when you actually do get certified through there.
I hope people, when they listen to this, they at least go look it up and see what it's all about.
Strongfirst.com.
Say that again.
Strongfirst.com. Yeah.
They're doing swings for 5 minutes straight, or they're doing complexes for minutes on end, right? And it's not just having the muscle, the strength to do that. There's the grip alone, right? Then there's your core, right? And then there's your cardiovascular system because you're breathing. It's not like it's a 1 rep max, right?
Yeah. So the test for you have to do it at your SFG, and your SFG2 is the snatch test. So it's 24 kilo bell, so 53 pounds for guys, 35 pounds for women, 16 kilos. You have to do 100 kettlebell snatches in 5 minutes. And you have to do them to standard, so they have to be technically sharp. But 100 kettlebell snatches with a 53-pound kettlebell is no joke, and your heart rate goes through the roof while you're doing it. It's you got to keep doing that. So every time I'll have to recertify here, I'll have to do that goddamn 100 rep kettlebell snatch test.
I have to try that out just to maybe just do as many. How many can I do in 5 minutes and just kind of get an idea about what that feels like? Because I don't think I've ever done 100 kettlebell swings in 5 minutes. Trying to push. That sounds awful. That sounds crazy.
Does that kettlebell snatch, does that start from the floor or not so much?
You swing. You start, originally it starts on the floor. You swing.
Yeah. And you go right into it. Got it. Okay.
Alternate hand, alternating and stuff like that?
As much as you want. Yeah, okay. You can alternate hands as often as you want. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. When we talk about what we're doing here at Athlete Builder with, the mind and the body, and I ask some questions about mindset and training, nutrition, and you just hit it right off the bat with mindset that without your discipline, basically everything else goes to shit.
Yep.
Talk about bringing on a new athlete. Their habits and their discipline might not be there yet, and how you keep them moving forward. But also with the veteran athletes, they're used to it. They have their routine, but after a while they could get kind of bored, and if you're a minimalist, you have to be comfortable making love to the mundane, right? Yep. You just do the basics over and over again, the fundamentals, and that's really what moves the needle the most, right? So as much as people can, the fundamentals do that. So talk about the discipline component for newer athletes and also veterans, and how, you yourself, right? So yeah, there's money involved in the weekend to go out and throw. So you're going to go train, right? But then there's also your livelihood by running your gym. So there's motivating factors, but talk about, how you build it yourself, and then how you try to inspire and encourage, but still, hold the standard with your athletes.
Yeah, for myself, and my son's the same way. We're 5'11" on a good day, so we don't have the physical capabilities to compete with these giant thrower athletes. So it comes down to discipline, durability, and desire. And if you have those three, sometimes you can make up for some shortcomings as far as physical stature. So discipline was always what I needed. I knew that I couldn't skip training days. I couldn't take the easy road. I was going to have to do everything I needed to do and more in order to compete with the very high level guys. And my son is in that same boat, and he does the same thing. And right now he's dealing with having a shitty meet this weekend, and that gets into your headspace. And, you have to keep yourself from training even harder and making it worse. So yeah, for us, that discipline, I think, was a natural byproduct of not being the most physically gifted on the planet. When I get a young athlete in, they're not going to have any discipline, especially in this day and age. Either the parents are just too nice to them, or dad wants it more than the kid wants it. So it's very difficult to kind of navigate those landmines. And I'm not sure which is worse, the dad who is overly enthused about his kid doing sports, or the mom who just wants to continue to breastfeed them even though they're 14 years old. And that's one of the reasons why I don't train that many athletes anymore. I just don't have the temperament for them anymore. But I do a kids kettlebell club with some junior high athletes, and the reason why we did it was to bring these kids in and just kind of teach them about health and strength, and then show them some early techniques to keep them safe once they start training, either with the other guy at the gym or with their high school weight rooms. How to brace properly, how to breathe properly, how to move weight without getting hurt. But the first thing I notice is these kids come in, and I always shake their hands. And I mean, there's lesson one. Okay. First of all, if you're sitting on the bench, stand up, and then I have them shake my hand and squeeze as hard as they can. And it's tough because, I get it. If mom's there, maybe it's not that embarrassing for her. But if dad brings him in and I'm teaching your son how to shake my hand, that's a problem at 13 and 14 years old. And it's these little things, like, I know that's the first step is can they shake my hand and look me in the eye? And then once we teach them that, then we start work, and it's teaching them that they have to do all the things they don't want to do in order to play Friday Night Lights, or, be able to do their swim training or their volleyball training or whatever. And, we go through not just the weightlifting now, but it's almost becoming a life coach for them how to be better humans. And it's not on their freaking cell phones, and they're not allowed to have their cell phones at the gym, when I'm working with them. As soon as they get done training, a lot of them go over there and grab that cell phone. And I yell at them, talk to your father on the way home, drive home, talk to your parents, put the freaking cell phone away. It drives me nuts. So yeah, I'm a little crotchety to train kids these days, but I think that's really important. And you just have to just teach them that the hard shit is what's going to make you good, and beat that into their heads over time. Now, when I get a higher level athlete in, that becomes more of a negotiation. They know what they're doing. They know what they've done to get to the place where they're at. And then it's sometimes about negotiating with them. So, what do you think has worked in the past? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? And why don't you like to do it? Is it just because it's an exercise you don't like? Or is it because, you've had issues with your low back, or, and then I'm willing to negotiate with them because I feel like they already have some skin in the game and they already have some knowledge of how their body works. So it would be silly for me not to pay attention to that. Now, I'll still keep it as minimal as humanly possible. Just like we said, what 30% can we cut out of that, but I'll still keep it as minimal as possible. But yeah, you do, some athletes need to be entertained a little bit, which I've never been that guy. But I get it. My wife, Erin needs to be entertained a little bit. And I think that's why she was so good at CrossFit, because it was constantly varied, and there was always different shit you had to learn and do. And I've got a couple women in now who are either former CrossFit style athletes or former college athletes. And you just got to negotiate with them a little bit and figure out, and then stay in touch with them and say, hey, is this working for you? Do you like this? What do we need to change? It's just a constant negotiation, I think.
Yeah. We had Zane Fakes on. He's a strength coach for the Indianapolis Colts. And he goes, when we get people at the pro level, they've been through enough physical pain, their body can be banged up. And if they're a veteran of the NFL for 8-10 years, then they're really banged up. So it's not just one size fits all. And Nick Saban would say, it does come down to it's all about the athlete, right? So I talked to this other strength coach, and he's like, yeah, there's really just one way to train people, and this is the one way. I said, well, even if that were true, no one's coming in at this exact same point. No one's coming in with the same mobility, same strength, same anything. So you still got to adapt it to that person. Like even my wife, she likes everything they're doing in those CrossFit classes, but 2 knee surgeries and not much of a meniscus, just not the way it's going to be anymore.
Yeah. 100%.
So you got to make some adjustments, and the goal is to be healthy. So we can work her legs out, but she's not going to be jumping up and down on boxes with all that impact when there's no meniscus, right? So, and as to kids, I get that too. I was that idiot kid driving around with my car full of shit, and I see these kids, they pull in, and there's so much shit in their car. I go, how do you get your life squared away to execute anything if you're always living in this chaos?
Yeah.
So I have these kids that I'm training small groups or trying to play in college. I'm like, hey, we got to be adults here. You want to do adult things in college, you have to be an adult, and I'm going to treat you like that. Now, even though you're only 15 years old, too bad. You said you wanted this. So you're going to go home and you're going to clean your room. You're going to go home and you're going to clean out your car. And this is all going to be the way it is. And they show up with a notebook. I go, oh, great. You want to take notes for our meeting? That's fantastic. Is that for this endeavor? They're like, no, this is my math notebook. And I'm like, no. Good try, but we're going to adjust that as well. So you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And whatever world they came from, that's the world they came from. And my job is to help, and your job is to help. And that's what we do. But it is definitely different. Definitely different. With you talk about Louis. I know you met with like Matt Wenning, and you've got all these other contacts, and they'll talk about that without your training partners, no matter how disciplined you are, like it kind of sucks. Now, if you're like you or me, like I only train with one other guy typically, and a lot of times you're training by yourself.
Yep.
That is the 1%. Most people want to have at least a few folks, but if you're trying to do anything consistently challenging, your training partners are going to be critical because they're holding you accountable, and they're also spotting you. They can see when you're dogging it or where the weaknesses are, so they can correct those. But talk about the culture that you're. It's always a moving target. The culture you've built and you're building, and how those training partners and that culture impact the results of everyone that come there.
Yeah, I've always kind of trained by myself. That's just the way I preferred it. But we kind of have, so the majority of what we do at the gym is personal training. Now, I distinguish that from private training in the way that personal training is I'm personally putting together your workout. I'm going to put you through that workout, but you're not going to be the only person in the gym. So there could be 3 or 4 other people in there. They're all on different plans. So we're tailoring the program for you, but you're still getting the camaraderie of a class where you have 3 or 4 people in there that, every day at 8:00, we have the same group of people that show up. So they are like training partners, and they, if they don't show up for a couple days, the text messages start to go back and forth. Hey, where are you? So it's not even something I have to do.
Right.
But the other people in the gym will start bringing them back into the fold. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. But yeah, there is that social aspect of it where, a lot of times you need someone there to make sure you're not slipping up and make sure, that you're doing the right things. And then someone who just gives a shit whether you show up at the gym or not, is nice for some of these people just to know that they have a friend group there that is concerned about them, So it's a big deal.
For sure. The most people aren't like Ivan Drago out there in the snow doing it, right?
Yeah.
Before carnivore was even a thing, and then there's keto, but you've been basically eating meat and a lot of it, and mostly just that for a long time.
Yeah.
Talk about your nutrition approach and how it's been over a decade of you doing it and the results and how you feel, et cetera.
Yeah. When I retired from competing, I was 312 pounds at 5'10", 5'11", somewhere in there. So, I mean, it was way too heavy for a normal human walking around who wasn't turning cabers or throwing weights. So I immediately um, needed a way to lose weight. And one of my last competitions was in 2012 in Nova Scotia, and I had like a really bad blood sugar drop where like I was almost passed out, and I'd always had like bouts of that my whole life and didn't really know what it was. Um, but I said, okay, well, I got to stop this too because obviously something's wrong. I was probably pre-diabetic, so uh, I just, in my limited caveman brain, I said, well, sugar is causing my insulin to spike. Maybe I should just get rid of all sugar. And well, carbohydrates, turn into sugar in your body. So let's get rid of those too. So I started off and I just dropped it to 75 carbs a day and then 50 carbs a day and then 30. And then I tried to go for, none. Um, and I did that, not knowing what keto was. I had no idea what keto was or Atkins or any of this shit. I was just doing this in my head. And within a year, I dropped almost 100 pounds. And uh, then I kind of was, doing the keto thing where I was adding more fat to it. That never really was a big deal for me. I never felt like I was low energy or anything. I think my body just adapted to it pretty well and thrived off it. And then I heard Dr. Sean Baker talking about the carnivore diet. And through Highland Games, we didn't really know each other, but he was a master. I was a pro. So I reached out to him. And this was before he was like super famous. He had just gone on Rogan. And I just asked him about it. He goes, yeah, it's real fucking simple. Just eat steak. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started doing that. And then, that's been since probably 2015 or so that I've been doing that, 2016 maybe. And I just been pretty much eating steak and eggs and ground beef since then. And I feel great. My blood work is great. My strength levels are great. I'm high energy. I don't have any problems. Now I can't say that's going to work for everybody, but for me, I think it works really well. And I started thinking of it as we've been on the planet for 300,000 years, and for most of that, I would assume that my European ancestors were following game herds across the tundra. They weren't farming for sure, and they lived just fine on that. And farming's only been around for 5,000-6,000 years. So I think this is the way we would have ate. We would have ate a lot of meat and some kind of plant life when game was scarce. So I feel really good doing that. I kind of give myself a historical reason why I can do that, and so far so good. I'm not dead yet, so hopefully that continues.
Well, we work with clients on their nutrition, and they'll ask, what's your system, what's your shtick? And I said, well, there's carnivore, there's intermittent fasting, there's Whole30, and the best plan is the one that you stick to, right? So if I can get you to stick to some habits that get you the results you want and the blood work you want, like you said, and how you feel, then this is what we're going to do. So there's some farmers that when they're on combine, they're sitting all day long. They don't have access to food. So intermittent fasting works great.
I've been doing that as well for years, just one meal a day.
But also the other component is, when you do something, whether it's all kettlebells or it's a back squat or it's running or it's carnivore or whatever, you see how you respond. You see how your body responds. You get some data.
Yes.
And then you adjust, right? Yeah. And if you don't need to adjust, you just keep going until you have some reason. More data came in. Hey, this is killing me, man. I'm squatting like the Bulgarians, 5 days a week. My knees and back hurt. Okay, maybe not. Don't squat 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And if you feel that, hey, you didn't go right to real low carbs. Hey, I need some carbs because I'm running and stuff. All right, well, let's see how your body responds and see how you feel based on this, and then how you respond, and then we'll adjust again. But that's the thing. You have a hypothesis. You're making an educated guess that this program is going to be good for you, that this nutrition approach is going to be good for you. We'll see. And then see how you respond and adapt, and then we adjust again. And that's where it's the implementing the process is where you make all the money, where you make all the gains.
Yeah.
That's not just, hey, here it is. Here's the one way to do it. Buy this template. Bam, you're done.
Yeah.
No, it's the adjusting is where all the magic happens.
Yeah. And it's, for my clients, I tell them if it had parents or if it grew in the ground, it's probably okay to eat. It's you can make adjustments, but just stick to stuff that a caveman would have recognized as food, and you're probably going to be fine. I've got we're doing World Carnivore Month, and I probably got 6 or 7 people in it. And it's not so much that I want them to get on carnivore. I want them to see how good they feel not eating processed food and drinking alcohol for a month. So I'm kind of tricking them into a healthier lifestyle with this, this World Carnivore Month. But I have one lady who's doing it, who's a doctor, who I really wanted her to do it this year because, we have discussions all the time about what is healthy and what isn't healthy eating. And I think she's learning things, that, you don't have to, you don't have to do what the FDA tells you to do because, in this day and age, especially now, people know that if the government tells you to do it, you should probably run in the opposite direction immediately and do the exact opposite. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's surprising her a little bit for sure.
This last piece, I actually don't know. I asked mostly the questions that I know the answers to. But this last piece, on recovery, it says hot tub, cold showers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get that. However, I've only done a sauna maybe a handful of times in the last 50 years, and it was just because I think some guys were training, let's go sit in a sauna, let's go get a steam. I don't know the why behind sauna. I've gone through some courses on cold therapy. I like the cold showers. I do the cold tubs. But there's still value with the sauna. So just, for my own benefit and for anyone else, explain how that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm an enthusiast. I started off with a infrared sauna, and within 6 months, it wasn't hot enough for me. And I think that's one of the things people will recognize when they start getting into sauna. But I do it every single day, and I originally heard about sauna from my father, who talked about my uncle. So I had these 2 uncles on my mother's side. And they were like old school weightlifters in the 50s and 60s. And my dad went with them one time to the old school Erie, Pennsylvania YMCA. And they worked out, and then, okay, we're going to go do our sauna thing. So they would go down to the YMCA dry sauna. They would sit in the sauna. When they couldn't take it anymore, they would get out, jump in the swimming pool, which back then wasn't heated. So they would jump in this cold swimming pool, they'd jump out, get back in the sauna, and they would do that for like an hour. Well, my father told me this story, and I'm like, well, man, I don't, these people online with their theories and shit, I could care less about. I'm going to do exactly how my uncles used to do it. So I go down after my workout, I lift, I go for a walk, and then I do like 15 minutes in the sauna at 230 degrees. I get out, I jump in a freezing cold shower for about 2 minutes. I go back in the sauna for 230 degrees for 15 minutes. I come out and do another cold shower. There's a lot of studies talking about, 40% drop in all-cause morbidity through daily sauna sessions. Increase your immune system function, heat shock proteins, and all this stuff. And I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. I love it. I feel better when I do it. It's very difficult. My heart rate gets up to like 160 when I'm in there. So it kind of mimics cardio without actually having to run. It's one of the best parts of my day. I go in there and I stretch and move, and it's in my home gym. So I had them build me a 4.5 person sauna so I can move around there. And I tell people if you're thinking about getting one for your home, have one built for you because you will grow out of an infrared sauna pretty quickly, and then it's kind of a waste of money then. But it's one of the best parts of my day for sure.
when I progress people on anything, whether it's lifting or cold therapy, um, it's not, it's not all in or not at all, from the get go. Like I'm not putting 500 on their back to squat.
Sure.
So with the sauna, like you're doing 2 rounds of, 20 plus minutes at a real high temperature for someone that's new. Is it 5 minutes? Is it 2 minutes? Is it a lower temperature or what? How's that go?
You'll get the people who start with the infrared. It's only going to get to 140 to 150 degrees. That sounds pretty hot, but you'll get used to that quick. And, I used to do 150 degrees for like 40 minutes straight. But just like anything, you start slow. Like my son started doing it at like 120 degrees, and now he gets it to like 200 degrees. It's just like lifting. You just progressive overload, and when one temp feels easy, you just crank it up a little hotter. And I've gone hotter than 230, and I just it's too much at the time frame I want to be in there. I like 15 to 20-minute bursts in there. And right now I can do it at 220 to 230, but anything more than that is just too much. And hell, I cook my steaks at around 280. So, you don't want to be too crazy with it.
Awesome. Mark, any plans, for 2025 or what's going on with you and Aaron?
You know what? We're just doing our thing. We're living out here in the country and digging it. I'm doing some virtual training online now, which is new for me, but I seem to like it. So it's tough because, guys, for us, we know what we're doing, so it's kind of hard for me to fathom why anyone wants a personal trainer, why anyone wants a trainer online. But the people I'm working with seem to really enjoy it. So I'm going to keep expanding that a little bit. And I'd like to do more of the virtual stuff because it's fun for me. And like I said, people seem to dig it. So we're going to do more of that this year and keep my clients at the gym going and, probably head down to the Keys at some point and have a cocktail or two. That's hopefully the plan.
Awesome. So when you're training, do you listen to anything anymore or not so much?
Yeah, I listen to 80s and 90s sitcoms mostly. So
no shit. All right.
Background in a lot of my videos, or Everybody Loves Raymond or Seinfeld or something like that. That's about it. I can't listen. I only like music that was 1992 or before. So I've heard all those songs a million times. So when I and then I've been at the gym all day listening to those same songs. So I just listen to more classic rock when I'm training.
Yeah, if I'm at the gym for a while or I've been training and there's tons of aggressive music, which is fine. Like I'll be listening to jazz or blues on the way home to help me just decompress a little bit because I've been in this aggressive state for a while. I'm like, I need to. If I walk in and just throw the door off the hinges when I walk in through the door, like that's not going to be good.
Yeah. And some classical music like that'll bring it down a little bit for me.
Yeah. You and Aaron, bucket list, a place you guys have never been yet.
We've been talking about this and we argue a lot. We'd love to. I'd love to go to Italy, and we almost went this April, but my son's in track and probably not going to get a chance to do that. Europe is crazy right now with all the problems they're having over there. So, we're talking about going up to Banff in Alberta, Canada, where I've been once, but I haven't been since 2008. So that's probably the next on the bucket list to go up there and see the Canadian Rockies again. Dang.
So I turned 50 in December, and my wife's like, where do you want to go? Because I took her to Hawaii when she turned 50 a few years back. And I'm like, Banff. And she's like, really? I go, yeah, it's not even an American national park, but it's in the Canadian Rockies and Moraine Lake. It's like clear blue. I'm like, yeah, so I want to go there and fish or go hiking. And so that's where we're going into June.
Yeah, we competed in Calgary and we won the world. Me and Kerry Overfelt, Mike Zolkowicz won the world team championships in 2008. in Calgary. We actually competed just below the Hart Foundation home, the Stu Hart's house.
Really?
Wrestler was over the house overlooked the field where we competed, but we won the world teams there. And then the next day, they took us up to Banff for just a day of sightseeing and hiking. And the Scottish team all went in the hot springs, hot tub outdoors, and carrying our whipping snowballs at them from the balcony and stuff. So it was a great time, and my wife saw some videos and she wants to go up. So yeah, I'll go back to Calgary, back to Banff. It was great. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. It's beautiful.
Can't wait. You got a favorite sports movie?
Oh, Vision Quest, 100%. There's no other sports movie. That's just it right there.
You know what? I like the movie quite a bit, but I wanted Shoot to win. I liked him better. I thought he was tougher and better, but it's not how it went, and that's who I wanted to win.
Have
honestly.
You had Frank Jasper on the show?
I have not, and the Airy Bros have had him on. But yeah, if you know Frank Jasper, I would like to meet him and have him on the show.
Yeah, I had him on years ago when I was doing the podcast. Really nice guy, and let me tell you, like super knowledgeable about training and nutrition. He's definitely somebody you want to check out. But yeah, Frank Jasper, who played Shoot, and he still makes a good living off Shoot. He sells Shoot T-shirts, and that's still his thing.
What I had heard is that after doing some editing of the film, they had to bring him back to reshoot some things, and you got to be lean at that body weight for those scenes, and that wasn't his natural weight. So he'd put weight on because he's back to living his life. Then he'd have to cut it out again to come back in and record, and then it happened a couple of times. He's getting kind of annoyed. It's a legend that I heard, but I don't know, the reality of it.
Yeah, he wasn't even an actor. He was an athletic trainer, and they saw him, and they said, "Oh my God, this guy would be perfect to play Shoot." And they asked him, he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll do it." So I mean, he didn't have like a lot of lines or anything, but
no,
a nice guy, and he's big into training and yoga and nutrition and yeah, real good dude. And you can just reach out to him on Instagram, and he'll answer questions, and just real nice guy.
I'll do that. How about a sport or athlete that you like to watch?
I am for a guy who's been in athletics my whole life, I am the least sports guy ever. Like last year during the Super Bowl, we watched reruns of New Girl on Netflix. So I am not a sports guy.
Okay.
When it came, I used to love Khabib Nurmagomedov in the UFC, mostly just because he was just such a gnarly, disciplined monster of a guy who was like no frills, and I used to really dig. Right now, there's nobody out there that they're all been to Diddy parties and shit, so I don't want anything to do with any of those people.
This next one might be kind of tough for you because I know like you see a small fraction of the books behind me, but I know you're a big reader. So to say, do you have a favorite book? Boy, that'd probably be pretty tough. Or you have a handful, or a genre, or a series of books or topic that you gravitate towards.
Yeah, I like historical fictions and even sword and sorcery stuff. So like Lord of the Rings and stuff were all great. I read Lord of the Rings every year at Christmas. But I got to say, my all-time favorite is Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield, which is historical fiction on the Battle of Thermopylae. And if you haven't read that one, I think every adult male should have to read that book before they turn 18. And it is just, it is a mind fuck. And it is, for anybody who's interested in discipline and training and improving themselves as a man, Gates of Fire is the book to read. I think they make them read it at West Point. If I'm
Is
not,
that right?
So.
My wife's a big historical fiction person, and our family did over Christmas little book club thing, and she picked one, and I can't remember the title, but I'll get it to you. Essentially, these females were spies during World War II, and some of it turned out great for some of them, and some of them not so much. And so a lot of it was based on true characters, and so things are changed, but a lot of it is really accurate. So I'll get that to you.
Yeah.
And then if you like fiction, but that's relevant. I'm a big Atlas Shrugged fan.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I was hoping you'd say that my new book is your favorite, but I have, of all our guests so far, I haven't heard that yet for some reason. So
it's fine. Well, it finally showed up, and the thing of it is I gave you two different addresses. I mixed the gym address with my home address for some reason. I'm an old man, but it finally showed up at the gym one day, so it's in the queue to be read, and I will get on that for sure.
well, I'm really looking forward to the feedback, and don't just sling shit. Like if some parts need to be better, tell me because I want to improve it. So,
Absolutely.
next question, do you have because you're into you like some fantasy things as well. Do you have a favorite superhero and villain? And it could be real people or fictional. I don't care.
Yeah, I was a huge comic book. I still am a huge comic book fan, and I got the omnibus for Christmas, and I have a subscription to Savage Sword of Conan. So I've always been a Conan guy, and not so much the Marvel Conan, but the Savage Sword of Conan, because you had super violent images, and there was sex in it, and it was like he was a real barbarian. He wasn't sugarcoated like in the Marvel ones. So yeah, Savage Sword of Conan, that was my favorite, still is.
Awesome. Since there's like a few different versions of Mark Valenti, is there a favorite lift back in the day and a different one now?
Yeah. So deadlift was my thing. I pulled 730 sumo when I weighed 312 pounds. And then last year, I had a goal to pull 3 times my body weight with both sumo and conventional on the same day. So at 51, no, I was 50. At 50 years old, I got down to 180 pounds. I pulled 550 sumo and 550 conventional on the same day. So that was that. The deadlift was by far my favorite. But now I really enjoy the bent press with the kettlebell, old style, old school strongman lift. Really enjoy that. It's a strength lift, but you also have to be flexible enough to do it, and it's really fun for me.
The hip mobility alone, when I was a bigger guy doing circus dumbbell, I would warm up with some bent press, and I'm like, my God, I did not have that range of motion. But
Yeah.
I'm judging at Strongman Nationals at the Arnold, and it was for the amateurs, and if you win, you get to advance to the pros, and it's different weight classes. And this small guy has a big circus dumbbell to press, and everybody else is using their legs. And that fucker, he just bent down and inched that arm up.
Yep.
I'm like, that dude's doing a bent press at that weight.
Yep.
It was more than 1 time's body weight. It was like 1.5 for him. So, because he's a light guy. And he pushed his hip out and extended that arm and then stood up. And the entire crowd was like, one kind of like, what the fuck? And then they were just cheering their ass off because that's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah.
It's a fun lift if you can do it. It's painful though. You will get more flexible by doing it, and it's one way or another.
Yeah, that's true. Mobility is critical, and if you can't get in the right position on any lift, you're going to be in trouble. But there's no places to hide on that one. You got a favorite quote?
You know what? I'm really into one lately. It's when ships were made of wood, men were made of iron.
Okay.
I like that one.
I'm actually writing that down. Where you said you're doing some things virtually, and also where your gym's at. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so Blind Dog Strong is in Vermilion, Ohio. You can find us there at Blind Dog Strong. And then my personal page is at mvalenti, VALENTI 100. And like I said, I post some stuff of me lifting on there and a lot of books. And you can reach out to me for virtual training on either one of those pages. I'll get back to you. I'm on Twitter, but I don't ever post anything. But I don't even know what my handle is on there.
Got it. Well, for those playing along at home, shout out Mimi Mahan with Mahan Strength that connected me with Mark back in the day. So
one of my favorite people on the planet. Absolutely. My favorite humans.
What an awesome lady, awesome family. Shout out Jocko Fuel. And for those that are reaching out to us, info at athlete-builder.com, and the book is online, Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Planner comes out this week that accompanies the book so you can implement what you learned. Mark, great talking to you. Appreciate it. I love the authenticity. I love the knowledge. I love just hanging out. It's been way too long to catch up. So, man, really, thanks so much for the time today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'll do it anytime you want. It was a great time. I appreciate it. Nice seeing you guys.
All right. Have a good one.
Great seeing you, Mark.